Welcome back to the stuff about money they didn't teach you in school. I am your co-host, certified financial planner, Erik Garcia.
And I'm Xavier Angel, certified financial planner.
All right, Xavier. We don't get comments that regularly. Well, some people will off comment on the podcast. Hey, I saw you, I heard you, you said some good stuff. But we received some very specific feedback recently that I want to push back on hard because I think they're absolutely wrong. They said that you and I always wear the same shirt, not like the same, same colors as you and I, but like individually,
the same individual,
the same
right?
Episode after episode, and I think that's absolutely inaccurate. And I bet you that person is poor.
No, she is
not. I bet you they don't listen to us.
So we would, and I go back and I think about that comment that she made, and it's in reference to a time period. You know who you are. Yeah, you know who you are because you're going to listen to it. So yeah. She's specifically talking about a time frame to where I think it was over a course of 3.5 to 4 weeks. We released a bunch of videos, not the podcast, but videos. And in those videos, because we recorded everything in one day, you had on the same blue shirt. And I had on the same white shirt.
That's a lie, because when I bulk record, I bring in multiple shirts. You must be talking about you. She must be talking about you.
No. She specifically pointed you out.
You can go back and watch our videos. I don't own 106 shirts. Okay,
with the exception of the last 3 podcasts that we've done, because we have on the same shirt.
Oh yeah, man. Oh my gosh, we just proved we're right because we've been wearing the same shirt for these episodes because we're not okay. I will be more conscious. I will take that feedback and I will try to wear different shirts. So
I tried to change my shirt on this one. Erik told me no.
I mean, we already hit record. That's the last thing I need is you changing your shirt on video. Then we get canceled. We're not talking about wardrobes, okay? And we want your feedback. We actually love feedback. We're kind of joking, but that was some actual comment that we got. But we do like your feedback. We like to hear what you think about the show. If there's something you want us to talk about, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So in the past 2 episodes, we've talked about behaviors, bad behaviors, good behaviors. Bad behaviors derail us from building wealth. They destroy our wealth building potential, and good behaviors protect us to build wealth. So in this episode, what we want to start talking about is what is actually building wealth. And there's something that I would say is it's like this hidden engine to building wealth. It kind of runs behind the background, and that is consistency. Right? Oftentimes, people fail to build wealth because they stop doing what's working. So wealth is not built, and this is one of our myths, overnight. It's not built through this one time or one season of exerting just a bunch of intensity to build wealth. Right? I'm gonna work really hard this one time and build wealth. That's not how most wealth is built. It's built by durability. It's built by not doing something once. It's by doing something or doing. Let's put a finer point on this. It's about doing the right things over and over and over again for an extended, let's say long period of time. That's consistency. Any thoughts on that before we jump in, Xavier?
Well,
it's on your face.
Yeah. Well, as I'm sitting here thinking about what you just said, doing the right things over and over again, it actually brought me back to our last post, where we talked about making smart decisions, and it's small, smart decisions over and over and over again, which put us in a better place than making that one big decision, that one big moment. And that's what it brought me back to, thinking about episode 2.
Yeah, it's like persisting right. in good decisions over and over. We're going to talk about 3 areas where you need to be consistent in, but there's a really interesting piece of research that I came across by Angela Duckworth. And what she studied was what separates people who succeed long-term from those who don't. Now, her background is that she was a teacher, I believe, in the New York City school system. and she would teach students over and over and over again. And she became really interested in why certain students would succeed and why others didn't succeed. And some of her early observations were that it's not the smartest kids that are having success, right? So she got really interested in that. She went back to school, became a psychologist. And some of her research, she started studying West Point cadets in the Army. She started studying spelling bee competitors. Spelling bee competitors, kids in these spelling bees, different sales organizations. And the question that her and her research team were asking that they wanted to get to the bottom of is, can we predict who is going to succeed and who's not going to succeed? And if we can, what are the factors that lead this one individual to succeed versus this other individual? And here's what she found. It's fascinating. It wasn't talent, how talented the individual was that led them to succeed or not succeed. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't the smartest succeeding. She found it was the grittiest individual. Now, she defines grit as passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Passion and perseverance. Passion and perseverance, consistency. The ones who succeeded were the ones who were more consistent. It's not the ones who just put an effort in once. It's one who put an effort in twice, in 3 times, in 4 times. That effort alone doesn't matter. It's when you consistently exhibit effort, it grows exponentially and it compounds. The same way our investment accounts do.
You got me thinking about, so can I tell a story?
Yeah, of course you can.
My first story. Wait,
is it about me?
This is the first story I've ever told. No, actually, as you talk about that, right? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about what I've gone through with my daughter over the past 4 days, and I'm thinking about, does she have the most talent when it comes? She's a dancer, and this week she's trying out for her varsity dance team, and I'm sitting there thinking about it, and was she the most talented dancer when she started competitive dance 4 years ago? No. But it was the grit, the grind, the determination to learn and to become the best that she could be.
Yeah.
And I look at her now versus where she was 4 years ago. And it's, so I was getting emotional when you were talking about that because I was thinking about where she is today. Yeah. And it is. It's the grit. It's the grind, the determination.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in the context of money, most people are not failing because they don't know what to do. They're failing because they don't do it long enough.
Right.
I mean, how many people do we talk to who say, I can build wealth without investing?
Mm-hmm.
How many people come to us and say, I probably need to save more? How many people come to us and say, yeah, I know that I probably need to get my spending under control? People know what they need to do.
Right.
They fail. They don't do it long enough.
Right.
They don't do it consistently enough.
We just had a conversation with a young lady who was, she's ready to walk away from what she's doing and growing her future because everything she's done to this point hasn't worked.
Yeah.
And I can remember you telling her, you're quitting before you've had the experiences to make you successful.
Yeah, you haven't done it long enough.
Right.
Yeah, you haven't done it long enough to say you've failed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It kind of goes back to, I think, what we talked about in the myth episode about what do they call it? The plateau of latent potential in Atomic Habits. So James Clear, he talks about this idea of like this ice cube melting. Ice melts at 32 degrees. And if we apply heat, if you could apply heat evenly to a piece of ice and you warm it up to 20 degrees, nothing happens. If you warm it up to 30 degrees, nothing happens. But something is happening. Right? And then all of a sudden it starts melting. And you think, oh, all the work happened at 32 degrees. No, man, there has been a consistent application of heat. There has been this stacking of work that's been going on below the surface that sometimes no one sees. And sometimes all that we see is all of a sudden they're successful. How did that happen? Overnight. Was it though? Was it? Yeah. We talked about the average co-founder of a business, of a successful startup was 46. Right? Yeah. We're talking about 20-something years of stacking experience, oftentimes industry experience in the area of success, consistency, showing up. So let's talk about 3 areas of consistency that helps people build wealth. This first one sounds kind of obvious. I alluded to it earlier. Consistent saving.
Making those regular contributions.
Regular.
Yeah. You know, I think regular, we have to define what that means. And in a lot of people's minds, I hear them say, well, I got to be saving weekly or monthly or whatever it may be. But that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. I mean, regular is just you've done it, you do it more than once on a consistent basis. That's what's regular. Right? If you do something every day at the same time, that's regular. Right? I regularly work out. I regularly eat breakfast. I regularly go to work. Right? I do it consistently. So I regularly save. Save could be every time I get paid. It could be twice a week. It could be once a week. It could be bi-monthly, semi-annually. I got some people who put one-time contributions on an annual basis. It's regular. It's consistent. What's important is wealth builders consistently build their base. They're consistently building their foundation.
All right. And that goes, building that foundation is going to go to something we've said often. You know, often we want that gratification today. We don't want to delay it, right? We want to spend now, and then we're going to save later.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, consistent saving is the reverse of that, right?
Well, it's a present bias.
Yeah,
it's a present bias that we have to today.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Consistent savers reverse that. I'm going to save today, and then spend
tomorrow.
Later.
Yeah,
spend tomorrow. Right. And I want to make this clear here. Consistent savers, it's not about, well, I don't have enough money to really save to make a difference. I'm going to tell you right now, saving $20 a week makes a huge difference if you start early enough. It's like going to the gym. It's like saying, you know what? I only have 30 minutes a day to work out. Like, what can I really do in 30 minutes? Right. Well, if you go to the gym 3 days a week for 30 minutes for an entire year, there's 52 weeks. I did 150 something 6 workouts, 156 times 30 minutes. I did, help me out, 70 something hours of working out. That makes a difference. You do that every year consistently, boy, you're making an impact. So it's not about how much you save at one time or how much you save on a regular basis. What's important is that you do it consistently, regular. It is a behavior that becomes a habit.
And to get into that behavior, you got to start simple.
That's right.
Start simple and then add on to that. You know, increase that over time. Small pieces, but increase it.
Yeah. Which leads us to second, consistency. And this kind of ties into the first one. It's consistent investing. Because sometimes our saving isn't necessarily investing. I want to nuance the two. All investing is saving, but not all saving is investing. Okay.
Ooh.
So, do you mean to say that again?
Yeah, say that again.
All toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads, type of thing. Is that kind of?
Yeah. Say it again.
All investing is a form of saving, but not all saving is investing. So when we talk about investing, it's like we're taking our capital, we're taking our money, and we're putting it in something that has the potential to grow, and not just earn 0.2% interest or 0.01% interest. That's not anything significant. So, consistent investing. There's a couple parts to consistently investing. Same thing to consistent saving. I'm doing it on a regular basis. 401ks are great for that. We call that dollar cost averaging. Automatically, money's coming out of my paycheck. I'm consistently staying invested. I'm not taking money out. We talked about that last episode, right? Consistently keeping my money invested. Consistently investing, this is going to tie back to our good behaviors or even our bad behaviors, not reacting emotionally. Richard Thaler talks about in the book Misbehaving that we've been referencing during this series. Humans tend to act irrationally when it comes to making financial decisions. It's an awareness thing. So consistent investing is being aware of that and not reacting emotionally. And then part of that is understanding the process of investing, understanding that most people make money in the market over time and letting it happen, right? Not reacting to what's going on in the markets. So I mentioned 401k millionaires. There's a lot of people who have built a lot of wealth in their 401ks. And what's interesting, most of them got there not by picking the best investment, not by picking the perfect investment. They did it because they just consistently saved. They just consistently picked a percentage of their income, 10%, 14%, 15%.
And they're letting it ride. It's contributing consistently.
They do it over a long period of time, and they don't disrupt the process. Nothing disrupts the process. Mm-hmm. They do it out of habit.
Because over a long period of time, when we start looking at the markets, what goes down is going to come back up. And you ride that. You've got your dollar cost averaging to where you're investing when the markets are low. You're investing when the market's high. Consistently putting it in, it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah. All right. Third part of consistency is consistent skill development. You recognize that wealthy people consistently invest in themselves. They're improving their craft. They're building expertise. Like you and I, we continue to collect designations. Getting a certified financial planner is a really good example of that. Mm-hmm. We're investing in ourselves. What did that do? It elevated our knowledge. It elevated our credibility. It elevated our ability to help clients. We will build expertise in certain areas. I'm currently enrolled in another designation for tax strategy planning. You got an expertise in insurance.
And still developing my skill of being on camera and speaking.
Oh, it's just getting better, man. You're like a fine wine. Get better with time, right? And as we invest in ourselves, as we stack these skills consistently over time, it gives us the ability to increase our income over time, right? In one of the last episodes, we talked about this idea of what am I doing? My lifestyle's not creeping, but things are getting more expensive. But maybe you're investing in your skills, which means you can get a different position that could possibly pay more, right? So that's wealth builders are consistently developing their skills. They're getting better at what they do. And we hear this regularly from experienced business owners. I've said this. There's things that I used to do in business that I don't want to do anymore. Not because I don't think they're important. It's because I've developed other areas of expertise that demand my attention, that demand my time. So I'm able to focus more on things that are higher level thinking, higher revenue generating, as opposed to some things that are lower revenue generating. And that's part of this idea of consistent skill development. So if you go back to what Duckworth found in her research, about this idea of grit, the grittier people tend to outperform, tend to have more success than the less grittier people. This ties in kind of this idea to this idea of business survival rate. So a lot of our clients, a lot of people who build wealth own businesses, and if you think about the successful businesses, they're the ones who last longer than others. This is wild stat that 50% of businesses only make it to 5 years. 30% or so, or a third, only make it to 10 years. So there's less and less and less businesses the longer and longer and longer a business is around. And sometimes that's what it takes. I am the last man standing. I outlasted everyone else for whatever reason. And I'm not saying talent doesn't matter. I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter. I'm not saying that intelligence doesn't matter. Right?
Right.
I'm talking about, I had a football coach who used, there's a word he called stick-to-itiveness. It's sticking with something long enough. So it's the people who last, the businesses that last, are the ones who have this stick-to-itiveness, this consistency of regularly sticking to something.
It goes back to what we talked about earlier, that determination, that grit, right? You're grinding it out. You're there longer than everyone else because you're failed. At some point, you are failing along the way, and you're learning from those failures and redefining what you're doing.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily the strongest ones that outlast. It's It's the one who stay the longest. Those are the ones who outperform.
Is that why we're so successful? Because we've been around over 20 years now.
Yeah. No, I mean, to some degree, yeah. I mean, to some degree, there's a level of credibility that says, man, these guys have been doing this for a while. They must be doing something right.
Right.
When you hire someone, do you want to hire the person who's been doing it for a long time, who's been successful? Or do you want to hire the person who just started doing it?
Right. And along the way, we're redefining and growing our skills.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of being in business as long as we have been.
Yeah. So that I love Proverbs, and this is one of my favorite ones, and it ties into this idea of consistency, kind of this grittiness of just persistence. And it says that money made quickly disappears, but money gathered little by little grows. So money made quickly, intensity, right? The opposite of grittiness. I'm going to make it fast, right? I made it in haste. Good chance I lose it. Think about lottery winners, people who get big inheritances, people who get big lawsuits, right? Made quickly. 3 years later, most of them are in a worse situation than they were in before winning it, before getting it. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
But the person who's built it little by little, by sticking to it, by persistence over time, right? They tend to keep it. They tend to hold on to it. That's consistency.
And growing it little by little. We've talked about this often. Growing it little by little is boring.
It's not sexy at all.
But boring isn't bad. Boring's actually.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's a competitive advantage. Right?
Yeah.
We're staying in the game longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Along that same line, she also found this in her research, that gritty people don't constantly change direction. Okay? They don't constantly change direction. They don't keep restarting. They keep going. Right? You were talking about that individual that we were talking about, who I said they haven't failed yet. They just haven't done it long enough.
Right.
That they have all the skills to be successful. They got that ice cube to 25 degrees. You got to keep grinding. You got to stay gritty, because you're almost at 32 degrees, man. And when you get to 32 degrees, guess what's going to happen? The magic.
It's going to melt. It's a consistency of holding that fire to it.
Yes.
That consistency is building momentum.
Yes. Keep showing up. Momentum is powerful.
So, Erik, if consistency is going to build momentum, then what turns that momentum into something powerful?
Oh, man. That's going to be our next and final closing episode. And it is probably one of the, I talked about financial margin in the previous episode, about being, I think it was the previous episode, about being the consistent thing across all people who are financially successful. They spend less than they make consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
This next ingredient is probably oxygen to fire.
All right, give it to me. Give it to me, because now you got me.
Come back to listen.
You got my ears perking.
It's time. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. We will wear a different shirt for the next episode. Promise. But we hope that this is helpful. Our goal is to equip and to resource our listeners and our clients to make good financial decisions, consistent financial decisions that stack over time, because we know that wealth gained little by little sticks around for a while. So y'all, stay out there, keep making good financial decisions, plan wisely, live confidently.